Welcome to Oliver's Art. I'm Weldon Oliver. Today we're going to do Haystack Rock and the beautiful Oregon coast scene. I have an 11 by 14 canvas sitting landscape, and I've already covered it with white. And we're going to start by laying in some background colors that are rather unusual today. First thing I'm going to do is take my brush and pull down a little cadmium yellow. It's very bright, very pretty. And what I notice is I have a band of light that stretches in an arch both over and under somewhere near the center. And I'm going to use that as a focal point to put my rock today. I'm just going to pull that beautiful sun yellow out, maybe even get a little bit more paint onto the canvas there. I'm going to pull it down where the sun strikes the sand, and I will be adding browns and other colors to that later. And up in here, I'm just going to mist away a little bit of my sunrise morning color and even fuse a little bit of that underneath. So what I'm left with is a diffused bright light in the sky, some super bright light where the sun's coming directly in there. And we're just going to have a glorious color that day. Next thing up is I'm going to reach over and pick a rather unlikely color, and that would be burnt sienna. A little bit of burnt sienna with the yellow comes up as a very dull orange. And that dull orange is just going to be used to create a little bit of shadow above my beautiful yellow day here. Burnt sienna has enough red in it that it's going to let me work with the blue in the sky down towards the yellow without turning so green. I'm going to get a little more of that burnt sienna, come down here, and I'm just going to come under this area where the sand will begin. Bring a little of it across. It joins the yellow, kind of a golden tan look. Very pretty. A little bit of it there, and of course there would be more of it down in front where the sand meets the water. So I'm just going to bring it in from the corners and begin my perspective straight up from the bottom, corner-wise a little ways. I begin to tone my canvas with the colors of that day. Go out and look at your beach and see what color that brown is in that bright, bright sunlight, and you'll see how golden it becomes. Before I leave that area, though, I am going to reach over and get a little bit phthalo blue, a little bit of white with it. It wants to be a little bit green, but the burnt sienna will take it down just a little bit. A little bit of purple in it will give me the gray I want. Gray is going to allow me to come up here on the top. Clouds, overhanging mist is, and of course, down here in the beach. Begins to walk in. There we go. Just going to feather that a little bit with my brush. Beautiful colors. Wipe it a little bit, a little more white, a little more purple. Purple's a color that lets me work with other things. There we go. There's a bridge of purple. Comes from the yellow up toward the gray sky at the top. I'm going to fuse that out with X strokes. Gently fuse it. Down here. Smooth it very gently. Slightly exit and just lay it down a little bit. I'm beginning to force the issue of perspective. I'm going to wipe the brush. Grab a little more white, a little more phthalo blue. Get a lighter blue now, kind of a sky blue color. I'd like to see a little bit of that around. There's some of that sky blue. Kind of comes down over the gray a little bit that day. Just gives me a chance to make a little bit of that low-hanging sky. Of course, there would be a little bit of that reflected at the bottom. Won't hurt anything to see a little of our sky down where the wet sand goes. And again, I'm going to smooth it a little bit just to lay it down. So I have put the colors where they need to be for value so I can add light to them later. It's all part of what's necessary. Going to wipe the brush again. This time getting a little bit of white and permanent rose. White permanent rose comes up with a very vivid pink. With the gray in my brush, it'll stay a very soft color. There's some. I begin lightening that sky. Just a little of what goes on that day. And of course, down below. Okay. I'm working towards the middle where I can control the size and the shape of my rock. I'm going to reach over and pick up my fan brush now. Get a little bit of purple and a little bit of burnt sienna together. Comes up with a rather dark red-brown. Even a little rose in it wouldn't hurt. Rocks in Oregon are left over from a lot of erosion. And this one's very famous here. It just kind of hangs out to the side a little bit like that. Comes down. Roughly like a haystack. That's why they call it haystack rock. And he would have a little reflection under him like this. And you can begin to see how strong the outline of a silhouette is against a good, very hot light. Enjoy that. I'm going to carry a little shadow of water over this way. And of course, I'm going to begin to accent the bottom of my beach and give it the depth that it needs. Things, of course, would be darker down in front. And they pull straight in the middle from the sides a little bit. Just working the color in. Again, I'm not over worried about blending the paint just yet. I need to get in the darks and the lights. Around that area, there's also a brown and purple hue rock affair that comes from the side. Like so many of our areas in Oregon, there's a great deal of cliff affairs, leftover mountains and cliffs and such that come in on the edge of our coast. So I need to see the shape of that hill. It's rough on top because I leave room for plants and things. There's no sense worrying about perfect lines. I'm going to darken that with a little bit of black inside it, where the shadows would be. Shadow would also be in the beach down here. There should be a little bit of black inside our rock, I believe, down this edge here, and of course underneath it. And now I'm going to add a little bit of black for depth in my foreground. Come in on that. Slowly building up the darks, working my way in toward the light. Nothing finished yet, nothing done. Wipe the brush out. Pick up more of the burnt sienna now and reintroduce that brown color that I want to see coming back from the sand. There we go. Establish the dark so I can put my lights on them. I haven't smoothed anything out yet. I haven't put water in there yet. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white and brown, come up with a tan color. and add just a touch of permanent rose to it. That color would be inside the mountain area. Accented areas where the cliffs go. There would also be a little bit of it inside the rock where the sun comes around. Ooh, there's a little bit. And there'd be a little bit of white now in this dirty brush on top of the water. Just blending in a little bit with the colors that are already there. We're already starting to see how the yellow comes down. It's going to join with the dirt in the beach, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. I wiped out my fan brush. I'm going to smooth a little bit of the beach right now. I'm just starting to gently smooth and X down these colors. Just fuzz them out a little bit where they join. Gentle horizontal strokes, X strokes. And as you can see, the beach is sort of melting into that reflective color that goes along with things being wet, especially with a light on them like today in this color. There we go. Again, you have to wipe out the brush. Just lay the color down, smooth it out a little bit. Ooh, that's beginning to have a nice reflective look to it. Very, very pretty. So I have perspective coming in from the sides, nice blending in the water. Now I'm going to accent my sky a little bit with a little bit of that storm brown purple. Not really a storm. There's always a little bit of a thread of one of those. Just something dark as a cloud in this area, which is so often the case here on the coast. There's something going there. Now we're about ready to light everything up. Wipe the brush again. We're using this big brush as a blender brush and just gently feathering the edges of things with quick, short X strokes, just laying things down. After wiping out the fan brush, I'm going to begin adding a little light. First place I see a little light is I pick up a little white on the fan brush, maybe a very light brown. It's got a little of that burnt sienna in it. And that would be, of course, anything that comes along the rock edge. And, of course, the water coming in wood. A little more white on the brush. I'm down here now crossing. It's a foam pattern that crosses the rock, crosses the shadow behind it. Getting a little more white on the brush. I'm just going to go ahead and follow some of the foam patterns in. I keep getting more white on the fan brush. As I come in, it just crosses. Works its way across the dark and out. Just going to blend the back of that foam a little bit. There are always those light, reflective areas in wet sand where some of the glare comes down. There's some. In fact, I think I'll even get white, a little bit of yellow now, to wiping out the brush. Because I would see some of the sky in here. Little bits of it. Again, it's just white and the color creating that light that you would see showing from the sky. Brush marks go down and across. You begin to see the glow onto the water. I really love how everything just joins up at the bottom. I enjoy being at the coast where I can just see things come together like this. Especially on these beautiful spring days now. And up above in the sky, I would also need to see where the clouds begin to hatch their beautiful spring, glorious colors. They would be more around the edge where the light hits them, and coming back across in some of that dark that was there in the early morning. Intense light that just tends to break up over the dark. A little gray. I'm just borrowing a little gray from up above, creating those shadow clouds that come down. A little more light, I think. I so much enjoy our Oregon coast. I just love the beautiful sunrises and sunsets that we have. They're all very lovely. Accenting the sky. Borrowing color. Borrowing color allows you to use what you have on your palette and your canvas. I'm going to get a little more light and accent this foam area here. Foam should stand out where it can be seen. And little glimpses of light behind it. A touch more in here, perhaps. There we are on the beautiful Oregon coast. I'm Weldon Oliver for Oliver's Art. Come and join me in paint.